Hello and welcome back to our channel. In this video, I'll be teaching you 20 steps that could be in your next Excel assessment test. The video consists of two segments. I'll discuss 10 steps in the first segment and then we will move forward to the next segment and complete another 10 steps. If you want to follow along, I suggest you to download the Excel file from the video description. Okay, so let's jump into the video. Here in this Excel sheet, you can see this is the practice document on the left and you see list of steps on the right with the status. So we will go one by one and complete each step of this Excel assessment test. For the best outcome, I suggest download this sample file from the link below and following along with me. This will help you learn and succeed. Now let's focus on the step number 1. So the step number 1 asks us to extend column B to fit the total cost by month. So column B is this column right here and the total cost by month is this value. So as part of this step, what we need to do, we need to expand column B like this. Put your cursor here and drag this to the side as needed. And now the value of the total cost by month fits into the column B and we will mark this step as completed. What I'm gonna do is I can write here completed. Okay, to best complete exercise, it often help to understand what kind of data you are dealing with. So let's take a close look at the data. This is the table with office expenses and looks like expenses are categorized by different items. We have computer expenses, internet bills, electricity bills, lease, utilities and other supplies. Then we have values by month. We have March through July. This as the value related to this expenses. Knowing this information will help us to complete step number 2 of Excel assessment test. To complete this, let's go ahead and read it. We need to calculate total cost of expenses by month using a formula. We already extended the column to fit total cost by month. Now we need to populate the values here in this row and the best formula to do this work is the sum formula. You can type in some formula. I will show you multiple ways how you can do it. You can type formula is equal to sum and then you just highlight the range for which it's applicable and then you close the parenthesis and hit enter. And this way you can get the total. Another way to do is there is a sum formula button on the home ribbon. You can click it and Excel recognize very correctly. In this case, Excel anticipated correctly what the range is. So I'll hit enter again and record the calculation. And the third way would be when you already have the formula, you can just drag it to the side columns to get the calculations. You see this little icon right here. Just click on it and drag it to the side and it will automatically get to the correct calculations. Another way to do it would be it would be using the alt plus is equal to on your computer. Now this is a shortcut to using the sum function. All you have to do is press alt and is equal to on your computer and it will automatically anticipate the range and then you press enter. Okay, now we can mark this step as completed. Let's go and continue to step number 3. And step number 3 is create border around the table. So first we need to understand what is a table. And in this case, a table is all expenses, even the ones that we have not calculated yet, with the total cost and an average cost, which we have steps to calculate later. So what we need to do, we need to highlight the table. Select the borders around the table and the best value for this section is all borders. So this is what I'm gonna go and I'm going to select and this completes step number 3. The border is now inserted. Let me write complete here. And now we go to step number 4. And step number 4 is change the data type into currency. What we need to understand here is the difference between values for the monthly expenses in total expenses versus just text values, which describe expenses themselves. And what we need to do, we need to format data values as currency. To do that, we need to highlight the data and select the currency sign number. You see this dollar sign on the home ribbon in number group. Just click on it and a dollar sign will be inserted here. We have completed step number 4. So now we can mark it as completed. Moving on to the step number 5, and in step number 5 we need to use formula to calculate total cost. So formula would be the same. The best way to calculate total cost would be to use the sum formula, and we already looked at how to use it. The only difference would be that we have used it vertically to calculate values for the column. Now we will be using it horizontally to calculate values for the rows. But the concept is the same for the sum. It doesn't matter, it uses the range. So I am going to write is equal to sum and select these cells and then hit enter. Now for these below cells, I am just going to drag the range for these values up to the total cost by month. And you can see total cost by month doesn't fit as well as our header. So it's better for us to extend it a little bit. And we can mark step 5 as completed. Let's go and continue to step number 6. And step number 6 asks us to use a formula to calculate average cost. For average cost, let's expand the column I a little bit, and I'll show you another way to extend the column. So all the text fit. You can just double click on the line and that separates I and J, and that expand the column up to the size of the text that's in the column I. So what we will do now, we will use average formula. I have showed you how to use the sum formula, and for the average formula you need to type is equal to and then write average, and then we have to select the range, and the trick here is that we do not want to include total cost by into calculations of the average. We just need to select the value from C7 through G7, which would represent all the values, and then we close the parenthesis and you see the formula here and hit enter. Now we can drag this formula down because it's going to be the same, all the values up to the office supplies. Perfect. Mark step 6 as completed. Let's continue to step number 7, and in step number 7 it asks us to change alignment in column E to right. So column E is May month. We can select column E, and there is no alignment right now in column E, but this is the right alignment, and that button by clicking right complete the step 7 in our checklist, and we will mark step 7 as completed. The question number 8 is find the highest value and highlight it in average cost. The best way to find the highest value is using the max formula. We can select this cell below the average cost column and then right here is equal to max and open parenthesis and select this range, close parenthesis and hit enter. Okay, so 574 is the highest value. Now the second part of the question is to highlight the highest value. We can use conditional formatting to highlight it, but in this case we can also give it a background color to highlight. So I'm gonna go ahead and give it this yellow background color and maybe make it bold as well. Okay, that seemed perfect to me. We can mark step 8 as complete. Let's continue to step number 9, and that is save file on your computer. We can save the file to documents folder. To do that, we click on the file tab and we click save as, and then we click on this PC and more options. And here we see this documents folder right here. So I can select document folder, and we can also rename our file and check that everything's looking good, and we click the save button. Let's mark step number 9 as completed. Now we can move to step number 10. And step number 10 is change page orientation to landscape. So page orientation is defined. For this, go to page layout tab. We click on the page layout tab and we click on orientation. Right now you see orientation is portrait. So we just need to switch orientation to landscape, and we can mark this step as completed. Go back to the home tab and right here complete. Okay, so now let's move on to the next segment, and we have another list of steps as you can see here. So here in number 1, we need to fit the work table into a single page for printout. First, let's define the work table. The work table is the table that we are working with, of course, which does not include the steps for the assessment test. To do that, the best way to complete this part would be to select the print area. To select the print area, we need to first see how our document turns out. So in print preview, to do that we need to click file and then click on print. It shows print preview. And you see that it does show our work table, but this might be misleading because there is a second page here which we don't need, since there is a scroll bar on the right. And if we click the scroll bar, we see this table. Ultimately, the objective is to eliminate this table with the steps and purposes and only have monthly budget table selected. To do that, let's go back to our work document and we need to define the print area. We need to select the area that we will be working with, and I'll expand the area a little bit just in case. We need to add more values around our table, and I'll select the range between A1 to K19, and then I'll go to page layout tab, and this is where we define the print area. Here you see this button, so click on the print area button first and then select set print area. Now we have print areas defined, and let's go and verify our print area by navigating to file tab print. The shortcut to open print area is Ctrl P. As you can see, now we have only one page with our work table ready for printout. So this step number 1 is completed. Let me write completed here. And now let's move on to the step number 2. Here we need to center table header values. So table header is this row, row number 6. To center all these values, we need to select them and then click the center button, and that completes step number 2. I can write here completed. That was easy. Now let's move on to the step number 3. And in step number 3, we need to spell check the document. To do spell checking, we can go to review tab and there is a spelling button. So let's click spelling and it asks us, do you want to continue checking at the beginning of the sheet? And we say yes. Spell check is complete. Everything looks good. And now this will mark this step as complete. Let's go to step number 4. And in step number 4, we need to rename sheet 1 and call it assessment test. Sheet names are at the bottom left. So we have sheet 1 right here. To rename it, you can do it multiple ways. One way is right mouse click and click select rename. There is also the option of just double clicking on the sheet name and you can start typing right away. And it's easier option. That's kind of a shortcut. So we need to mark it as assessment test. And you can just click anywhere outside of this title and rename is completed. And we can mark step number 4 as complete. Let's continue to step number 5. And in step number 5, we need to add a new worksheet. This is very easy. There is a plus button that highlight and allow you to add a new worksheet. We just click on this and by default it's going to take the name sheet. I have added and deleted sheets in this workbook, that's why it's name like sheet 4 or 6, but there are no instruction of renaming it or anything. So just go back to assessment test and mark this step as complete. Let's continue to step number 6. And in step number 6, we need to create a column chart to show expenses for this data. To do that, we need to select the area. Once we have selected all this area, we need to click insert tab, and here we see this option that says insert chart and it asks us for a column chart, right? Here is the insert tab. We have this charts group and there are multiple options for charts. When we click this extension arrow, it shows 2D column or 3D columns. So we can, I guess, select any of those. It does not indicate which one you like. So the fancier looking ones are 3D columns. So if you like, you can select that. I'm going to just choose the basic one. And now the chart is inserted. There are no additional instruction what we need to do here. You certainly can play with this, but what I'm going to do, one important consideration is to make sure it fit into the print area. And the print area is highlighted already. You see it ends at this row. So I'm gonna make this chart a little bit smaller by resizing it and move it here. I'm gonna move it here into this area so it fits into print there, and make it even smaller so this way it fits into the print range area. We can mark this step number 6 as completed, and let's go and complete step number 7. And in step number 7, we need to change the width of column H and I so the content fit. You see that column H has total value by month hidden. That's what this sign means, that we don't see the whole value. To expand it, we just need to double click on the separator between column H and I and that extend column. And the value is now fit in this column. Now we can mark this step as completed. Moving on to the step number 8, we need to bold all headings. Bold all headings and change heading font to 12 points. So first of all, let's define headings. Headings are is a range between B6 through Y6 in this data. So let's select it first. We need to make it bold by clicking the bold button. That's one way. In other way, if you do right mouse click button, and that's available here as well, right on the context sensitive menu. So let's choose it here, and then we will change the font size. Right now it's font 11. We will change it to font size 12. In this way, we can highlight and mark step number 8 as completed. Let's go to step number 9. And in step 9, we need to merge and center the table heading, monthly budget. So first, let's locate monthly budget. Monthly budget is in cell B4 and we need to merge and center this. To do that, we need to merge all the cells between B4 and I4. We need to highlight them and then we need to click on this merge and center button. So this merge all the cells. Now it become one single cell. And I can also make it a little bit bigger, the font size, and it will behave as now as a single cell. We can mark step 9 as complete and let's move on to step number 10. And that is to insert a pivot table showing all the monthly expenses. Well, that's a bit complicated, not so complicated, but let's work on it. To insert a pivot table, we need to select this area and then go to Insert tab. Here you see this option that says Pivot Table. We will click on it and hit OK. The pivot table is inserted on a new sheet. And here we can play around and put expenses in the row section and total in the column to see the data. But in our assessment test, they didn't define clearly what exactly we need to display on our pivot table. They just asked to insert a pivot table and that's done. Alright, so that was it for today's video. If you found this video to be helpful, please make sure to click the like button and share it with your friends and check video description to watch the first part of this video. Subscribe to our YouTube channel as we have a lot of great stuff planned in the pipeline and I don't want you to miss any of it. See you next time.